Hello, it's Bigbazz again. I've been wanting to have a look at Fury for a little spec overview, so I've fired up the Legion Alpha and we're back on Warrior Man. I still haven't had a chance to fully learn the spec yet, so I'm going to be covering some things as I'm going along. As usual, it's still subject to change, all of this, and most of my thoughts are based on initial testing and just light playing, so there's no heavy theory crafting or anything. That'll all come later. So I'll start with some of the talents first, probably, I guess. Fresh meat, Bloodthirst has a 30% increased critical strike chance against targets above 80% health. This is going to be a flavor talent, very situational. The same with War Machine, which is killing the target grants you 30% haste and movement speed for 10 seconds. Very situational. So the base one, the default would probably be Endless Rage for now, which is 30% additional rage granted by auto attacks. The second tier is just Double Time, which is a favourite of mine. Stormbolt works the same as currently. It doesn't do the extra damage on stun immune targets anymore, so it's not really a DPS ability. And Shockwave, which works the same as before. In the next tier we've got Avatar, which works exactly the same as it does on Wards of Draenor. It's going to be a really popular talent. Outburst, which makes Berserker Rage work like it does on Wards of Draenor. This is going to be very useful for Blade Storm bursts. I'll explain that later. And possibly other scenarios. These two are really competitive and dependent on the situation. And then there's Wrecking Ball, which is a random chance for your Whirlwind to cost no rage and deal 200% damage. I mean, it's possible that it's got a use, but I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look into it or play it. It's not a very attractive talent to me. Next tier we've got Warpaint, which is, this tier is all survival / mobility. Warpaint is going to be a default, I think, for at least raiding. Bounding Stride, situational raiding, probably default for PvP. And if this isn't default, then this will be quite attractive for PvP. Charge also increases the healing of your Bloodthirst by 300%, and Bloodthirst already heals for a massive amount. So this is going to be powerful in the context where it's usable. Otherwise, yeah, for me as a PvE player, I can't see much use of this, but we'll see as the fights come out. Things may change. Bounding Stride, like I said, this is a situational. In PvP is probably baseline, I'd imagine. Some fights this is going to be definitely usable, like as the default choice, but I think the actual base default is going to be Warpaint, just because, yeah, you take less damage. Nothing exciting really. I like Bounding Stride. That's the talent I'd take if it was my choice, but I feel like Warpaint may be more important for some fights. It depends. Blade Storm works the same as it does for arms, essentially. Does a lot of damage, even on single target. It scales with haste, so the more haste you have, the shorter the actual duration of the Blade Storm is, but the more you still do all the damage during that time. So at the moment it's at 5.8 seconds, the base is 6 seconds. So the more haste you've got, the faster you can get it down. Now that's quite important for Fury, because Enrage only lasts 4 seconds. So if you was to use Outburst plus Blade Storm, that's the only way you can possibly get the full Enrage during a Blade Storm. But Blade Storm's still 1.82 seconds too long for that. So haste scaling will cause Blade Storm eventually, possibly, to hit closer to the 4-second mark, where it'll fit inside a full Enrage, which will make Outburst really powerful. Because otherwise there's no realistic way to get Blade Storm within Enrage. I mean, at best possible scenario, with a 1 second global cooldown, you could get 3 seconds worth of Blade Storm within Rage up without taking Outburst. Yeah, so Outburst is honestly, you'd take it and you'd macro it a Blade Storm. Frothing Berserker, when you reach 100 rage, your damage is increased by 10% and movement speed by 6%, 30% for 6 seconds. Very situational. It's not an easy talent to really keep going. Well, it's not really possible to keep it fully going, but it'll have its uses. I'm sure. It's not a massively popular talent from what I've seen. I don't really find it very fun to use. It's very difficult to try and get up to 100 rage to do this. Really. Anyway, Massacre. This is going to be baseline for single target. As much as Bladestorm is very strong as single target, if there's a fight where there's an important execute phase, Massacre has so much synergy with the rest of the spec that it'll be almost required. Because it sounds good, execute causes your rampage to cost no rage, yeah? But what that actually means is your rampage is causing you to enrage, which is giving you more rage, which you can use to execute, which could cause your rampage to be free again. So you're doing rampage, execute, rampage, execute. And then if you look at some of these talents, where are we? When you use Rampage, Odin has a chance to declare you champion of the Valia for 10 seconds, causing all of your offensive abilities to reduce the cooldown on all of your abilities for 3 seconds. By 3 seconds, sorry. So that's got synergy with Battlecry, which means you'll be getting your Battlecry off cooldown, so you'll be getting your 100% crit chance more often. So there's another synergy, Execute. Increases the damage dealt by 5% for 15 seconds, stacked in up to 99 times, so almost forever. So the longer the execute phase goes on, the more powerful you're going to become. And, of course, Massacre is allowing you to have more executes by giving you more rampages to create rage, like free rampages to create rage from enraged procs. So, again, this Massacre talent is going to be needed for this. And then we've got this. Rampage and Execute have a chance of activating Berserking, increasing your attack speed and critical strike chance by 5%, sorry, every 1 second for 12 seconds. So, this is similar to the tier 17 Fury Warrior tier bonus in Worlds of Draenor. Very powerful. And again, it synergizes with Rampage and Execute, and it synergizes with Massacre. So, next up, Inner Rage, Frenzy, and Meat Grinder. Now, Inner Rage is something that causes Rage and Blow to no longer require Enrage and deal 100% increased damage, but has a 4.5 second cooldown. The cooldown's not a problem at all, because you'll be look at the cooldown on Bloodthirst, 4.35 seconds. You'll never really get much chance most of the time to even use the 2 charges of Rage and Blow that you get from Enrage. So essentially all it does is nothing. The cooldown has no real effect from a gameplay point of view once you get going. The problem with this talent is that while it allows you to use Rage and Blow without Enrage, it still benefits from Enrage, which means now that it does more damage, 100% increased damage, there's actually more incentive to use Rage and Blow while enraged. So the trend you'll find is that you're going to press Rage and Blow every time you've pressed Rampage. So you'll press Rampage, and then you're going to press Rage and Blow with this Inner Rage. And the DPS is quite strong. Like from that gameplay, that trend, it's really strong. And actually, from a gameplay point of view, this is my favourite way to play. The talents that I've got set up here is the favourite way to play, at least pre-execute. This is great fun. I'd probably take double time, to be honest. But yeah, the rest is fantastic, like playing like this. This is my favourite way of playing the spec. The problem is it's not the best way to play the spec. Frenzy is the best way to play the spec, because it gives you 5% haste stacking 3 times. That means and it's with 10-second duration. That means you need to press Furious Strike at least once every 10 seconds, which is only really a problem when you're pressing Bladestorm. I find it can fall off during the Bladestorm, and you're kind of thinking, oh, maybe I want to cancel the Bladestorm just to get Frenzy back up because it's going to come off. So you need to be mindful of when you're pressing Bladestorm because of the Frenzy duration. Now, the reason this is better than Inner Rage is because of the execute phase. In the execute phase, there's a lower priority on pressing rage and blow. Your execute phase is all about improving the fucking awesomeness of your execute phase, and that's what frenzy does. It's giving you 15% haste. There's just no way to counter that within a rage. If the execute phase didn't exist, these would be two really competitive talents with each other. Because when I did a test between the two, I had identical numbers. Like the numbers were identical. I played both of them pretty well, not perfect, but pretty well, on a single target over about 34 million damage for each test, and both of them came out the exact same DPS. I think it was something like a 144.9k DPS or something around those lines. In that test, I didn't use Odin's Fury because Odin's Fury's got such a large radius that it was hitting all of the low-level dummies and screwing up my numbers by just causing insane damage because of the legacy buff on the old dummies. And finally, we've got Dragon Roar, Reckless Abandon, and Carnage. Dragon Roar's got a lot of potential. I think in the long run it'll be the best in all scenarios. In certain fights it's going to be the best for sure. And on AoE it's probably going to be the best because of the synergy with Blade Storm. But for now, in this low end gear that I'm in, and on single target basic fighting, Carnage is the best. Now the reason Carnage is the best is because if Rampage is cheaper, it means you're getting Rampage more often, which means you're getting more enrages, which means you're getting more rage, which you get, and more Rampages means more procs of this Rage of the Valia, more Odin's Champion, and pretty much it just enables the spec to flow a lot faster, a lot better. You're spending more of your time just pumping through pumping through like a furious rotation. Now with Dragon Roar, the damage is still quite comparable because if you play around it, around that 20-second cooldown with the damage bonus, you can do well. But I think Carnage is definitely a stronger talent on single target, at least for now. And then Reckless Abandon, very much a situational ability. It might be useful for PvP. I mean, it gives you the burst potential you'd want maybe an execute or with Rampages. I mean, you got your instant sort of burst potential, while you've also got the 100% crit from Battlecry. So, but I haven't spent much time testing Reckless Abandon, so I'm not gonna speculate too much. I can probably think of many situations where it could be used, but the default for me would either be Carnage or Dragon Roar, especially Dragon Roar on AoE. But there's a lot of ways to play AoE with this spec, and I'll try to get into that before this server shuts down. Meat Grinder, anyway. Whirlwind causes your next Rampage to strike up to 4 additional targets for 50% damage. Now I should also mention the Whirlwind also causes Bloodthirst to strike up to 4 additional targets and generate 3 rage for each hit. So where the old Meat Cleaver talent situation is gone, we've got Bloodthirst instead replacing that. Now really, I have said that I preferred the Meat Cleaver, but the more I play it, honestly it's the same thing but more reliable, so I'll go back on that. I quite like the reliability of being able to do Whirlwind and then press Bloodthirst. With Meat Grinder though, I found it, how do I put it, quite a cluttered spec. Now if you play it for a while, let's say you go on the dummies and you sit there for a couple of minutes, you will get the hang of it, but I don't think it's necessarily the best way of going about things. Frenzy's quite strong on AoE still, because you're not stacking a buff on the target like with the warrior class trinket in Wards of Draenor, where you have to stick on the target, it gives you some haste, and then if you change target it drops off. Now this is a personal buff that you get from casting Furious Strike, Furious Slash, so it's quite easy to keep up while doing AoE. This is accelerating your AoE rotation. in terms of Bloodthirst with Whirlwinds, Bloodthirst, Rage Income, and even the burst that you're putting out with Blade Storm while enraged. Now, Avatar's got some strength. In many situations, it'll be the best. Which one's the best at the moment, I don't know, but Avatar's 20%. With Outburst, you get in Rage, guaranteed with your Blade Storm when you need it, on the point. And it's, you know, you're getting the full 4 seconds, and Enrage is a lot stronger than Avatar. I think it's about 40%. Without Outburst, it's very difficult to always be sure that you can get Enrage while the Blade Stormed. But if you can put it off, which is very possible as well, if you put it off and you do it well, with Dragon Roar up, and you've got your Blade Storm and everything lines up together, then definitely Avatar's got the higher potential. But when it comes to making the spec nicer to play, Outburst being there is nice to have, definitely. And of course, like I said, Frenzy, haste increases reduces the cast time of Blade Storm, causing the damage to channel over a shorter duration, so it's taking more use of the Enrage buff. I've got 3 minutes left. What else do we need to talk about? Oh no, I'm not going to go into the PvP stuff yet. Otherwise, this spec, I think it's really fun to play with these talents. The problem is you can't really take Blade Storm on single target unless there's odds in the fight, because you're going to need Massacre. Without taking Carnage, the spec is a lot more cumbersome to play. It's more difficult to play, it takes a bit more skill, but it's still pretty powerful. I think in top end gear we're gonna end up playing Dragon Roar, because there's this higher burst potential. There's more potential to use the rage. So once you've got more rage coming in, you'll be able to expend that rage and make more of these stacking buffs. So maybe we got Avatar as well, and we got Dragon Roar, and we got Avatar, and then we've got Frenzy up, and then the Blade Storm, and everything's just going to be all about big bursts. And it'll be the same in the execute phase. Obviously on single target we're going to be taking Massacre, but the potential is very strong in the higher end gear once we've got more rage coming in. There's more haste, more crit for the Dragon Roar. But I think at the start we'll be using Carnage. How that'll pan out in the long run, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm not sure about how this works out. It felt great to play once you play for a few minutes with this setup. But Frenzy increases the burst on Blade Storm, accelerates the rotation. I'm torn on the situation. I could be wrong either way. But yeah, are there massive problems with the spec? I don't think so. A lot of people want Massacre to be baseline, and I can definitely see the game being a lot more fun to play if Massacre's baseline. Because you want the spec to play right to begin with, and the other stuff to be flavour. What we've got here is a spec that relies on lots of things to make it work. Like, I would prefer Inner Rage as a base, and I don't like Frenzy, because the way the game plays with Inner Rage is really fun, because you've hit your Carnage, your Rampage, sorry, you've hit your Rampage, and then you're going in for that big Raging Blow, and it feels good, and the damage is good. The problem is, as soon as you get to the execute phase, the way it's designed now, you're really hurting yourself by taking Inner Rage, and if you can play Frenzy, you're doing just as much damage as Inner Rage anyway, if not more. It'll scale better than Inner Rage, possibly. Maybe I might be wrong there. The same with Outburst. I originally thought Outburst wasn't that good, but the more I looked into the spec and the more I played it and played around, Outburst is quite decent. It's nice to have a reliable Enrage button. Anyway, I've been Bigbazz. I'll probably put some gameplay footage that I recorded the other night on. Cheers for watching. Bye. So we're just going to look at some Inner Rage gameplay now, with Outburst and Carnage. We started off with a Bladestorm burst, using Outburst and Battle Cry. I'm going to try and get our rampages going. Odin's Fury. Now the basic flow of this is going to be using Rampage as often as possible and using our Raging Blows after Rampage. Now as you can see, all the talents are getting reduced cooldowns. Now this is what is called Odin's Champion, as I explained earlier. When using Rampage, there's a chance to give you a 10-second buff where all of your offensive abilities are reducing the cooldown on your abilities by 3 seconds. So this is what you're seeing here, when you see the cooldowns of these different abilities like Bladestorm and Battle Rage getting chunking down. And that's caused by Rampage. This is another reason why we need to be Rampaging as often as possible. So we've got Rampage there, and then we're doing a Raging Blow. And the key is to keep as many Rampages as possible, basically, and keep our Enrage up time up. Just keep on pumping things out, pumping it out. As you can see, the damage output is very smooth with this gameplay. Of course, we won't be necessarily playing this gameplay when it comes to the live, because Frenzy, the haste talent, is more competitive in the execute phase, and so is Massacre instead of Bladestorm. But this will be the basic dungeon sort of spec, I'd imagine. I mean, anytime when you've got more than one target in a situation, Bladestorm is going to be very powerful, and mobs with low health that are not going to have long execute phases are not going to benefit so much from Massacre. So Bladestorm is going to have a strong place in this expansion, even on single target sometimes, but for the longer execute fights, Massacre is going to be the go-to, and so is Frenzy. But yeah, this is my preferred way of playing. I really enjoyed this. So now we're going to have a look at some Frenzy gameplay. Same spec, just Frenzy instead of Enrage. We'll start off with our Bladestorm Burst again. The key is to try and keep up 3 stacks of Frenzy through everything. So we've got a lot of conflicting priorities, I suppose, sometimes, and you just got to make the choices. And you've got to keep track of those Frenzy buffs. So it's the same basic thing we're trying to keep Rampage up off as often as possible. Trying to keep as many global cooldowns going. And we're trying to reduce the cooldowns on our abilities as much as possible. It's because with the Odin's Champions after Rampage, means that we need to pretty much focus on constantly putting out those Rampages, constantly using as many abilities as possible. And Frenzy makes that more possible. Now, there are some issues with Frenzy, not issues, but it can be easy to let it drop off at times, especially when you're using Bladestorm, because Bladestorm is a 6-second cast or slightly less with haste. So you're gonna need to be keeping an eye on that. You might be, like I've said before, you might have a situation where you'll be better off cancelling the Bladestorm just to get that keep that Frenzy strike up, because it's going to be annoying. It's going to drop off now. It's going to be annoying to have to put up 3 stacks again. If you lose those 3 stacks, you're going to be playing catch up, and you're going to lose DPS because of it. Yeah, so the spec is a little bit more jumbled up like this. It's not quite so obvious. You're constantly playing, just chasing the buffs, so to speak. You're chasing, keeping everything going. Everything's conflicting. You need to make the right choice at the right time. Like I said, it's a little bit jumbled up. It's not as fun to play. With the Inner Rage, you know you're pressing your Rampage, and then you've got your Enrage up and you're pressing Rage and Blow. And it felt quite satisfying to me. Now on here, you need to also pay attention to the Enrage duration, because of especially with the lag that's on the Alpha Realms. You think you've got a Rage and Blow, and then it disappears on you. So you know you've got 2 global cooldowns. If you play with that rule, you'll never fuck it up. But as you see a few times on this video, I have gone to press Rage and Blow and there's nothing happening. So this is Fury on the Legion Alpha. There are many aspects that I haven't been over, many different gameplay elements that I haven't displayed or talked about, and I haven't got a full 100% understanding of the spec myself yet, but I just wanted to give you a basic look at some of the talents and how the synergy works with the artifact weapon and the different abilities. Like I said, I think I've never been a fan of the Frenzy gameplay style, but it is looking like it'll be the most competitive choice so learning to keep that buff up is going to be important. And there will come a point where we will have it pretty nailed down as to how to play it. But I do hope that changes do come and the spec is made a little bit more, I don't know, solid. I think the spec is quite mathy in terms of figuring out which is the best way to play, and there are kind of lots of directions for one scenario. Like there are so many different options you can take to play AoE, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because they're not necessarily obvious choices. I can see you falling into a few different traps if you haven't done the research on the spec. So it's not a very obvious spec to the new player, at least, how to play. It's one of the more complex specs on the alpha as it is right now. But I'm a big fan of, well, like I said, I am a big fan of the Inner Rage gameplay. But I think with Frenzy and Massacre being so strong, it's not going to work out the best choice most of the time. At least if you're a player who's struggling to keep Frenzy up, maybe this is such an option for you. But like I said, it looks like it was a talent that was put in as a ability for people who didn't wanted something to press when they weren't enraged, and that's a trap in itself, because Inner Rage is best used when you're enraged just because of the way it works. I hope it gets changed so that it acts like you're enraged all the time. That'll give you more flexibility with the ability. If not, probably won't make it stronger, but it'll make it more flexible. Carnage is my favourite way of playing, but like I said, Dragon Roar is going to be powerful, especially on AoE and maybe later on in single target. But the ability to keep Rampage going is, I think, more important at this point. But I could be wrong. Like I said, I haven't done the numbers, and at this point of the alpha, when things are still subject to change and things are not set in stone, there's no point in going too deep into the theory crafting. I know some people have and will, but I'm a kind of person who plays by the gameplay, and then I look at the theory crafting later. When the expansion comes out, I will obviously be theory crafting and looking at the numbers and seeing where things lie. But I think with this spec, at least right now, it'll all come down to the fights themselves. There's a lot of gameplay elements that are involved where it is not so easy to pinpoint on a simulation. At least I think one thing is for sure, and Blade Storm is so powerful that on AoE you're going to be wanting to focus on your Blade Storm burst more than your sustained, because it does so much damage over a short amount of time that there are very few scenarios where not maximizing now will come out on top. On a single target, the Massacre synergy with the Relic is insane, and I think that'll be the obvious choice. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. I'm Bigbazz as usual, and hopefully I'll be making some more videos in the future. Subscribe if you like the content, otherwise tell me I suck, because I do. At least looking at this gameplay footage. Anyway, have fun and goodbye.